Carol?
Wait.
You.
Now, well, I was born in New Jersey, and I went to school in Washington, D.C. I'll start with my name and all. My name is Carol Rachlin, Rachlin. Then it's pronounced as though it was Rocklin. I was born in New Jersey, and I went to school in Washington, D.C. I went to junior college there, and I graduated in 1940, 2 years after I was out of school. My mother died, and the war came, World War II came, and I kept house for my father for 7 years, and when he remarried, during that 7 years, I rehabilitated my own hearing and taught hearing rehabilitation and fitted hearing aids at Manhattan Eye, Ear, and Throat Hospital in New York City. And part of that time, my brother and I shared an apartment, and then part of the time I had an apartment by myself. And as my brother married, I decided that I would never be a good salesman with hearing aids. And it was at the time everybody was getting degrees. And after we did all the groundwork, I knew just as much as anybody else. So I decided to go back to Columbia University and get my degree in psychology. My advisor suggested I take a course in anthropology, but I didn't like that better. So, as it turned out at the end of the first year, I did liked it much better because Columbia, at that time, the psychology department was a behaviorist, and I studied rats, and I like people. So I changed my major to anthropology. And in 1952, I went to the University of Indiana Archaeological Field School, and we had extra projects. And they had potsherds that had been impressed in the making of the pot with textiles. And that was a fossil textile, actually. And by pressing some plasticine against that, I got the positive. And when I returned to New York, I went to work. I continued my studies at Columbia, and I went to work as assistant state archaeologist for the state of New Jersey. And I also became very good friends with Dr. Junius Bird at the American Museum of Natural History. And he urged me to go on with the study because we knew very little about the textile complex of the archaeological period, Middle Mississippi, and the Eastern Seaboard fabric complex. So I went back. I graduated from Columbia in '53, and I continued doing studying and doing graduate work. I went back to Angel Mound in 1954 as a research fellow for the Indiana Historical Society, and I analyzed all over 2,000 of those pieces. And from that I wrote a reply. That led me to, I was also encouraged to find out if any living Indians did that. So I started touring the museums. And I found out that the woodland Indians, the Sacafox, Kickapoos, Shawnees, all did principally the Sacafox and the Kickapoos. So I went to the Sacafox, it's really a settlement in Tama, Iowa, and I learned how to make one of the bags at that time. Then I went back the next year under a grant from the American Museum of Natural History. I was there about almost 2 months, and I went to the north, to the Chippewa, and to the Winnebago, and then the next year I got another grant from the American Museum. Small grants they were, and I came to Oklahoma. But my first visit to Oklahoma was in 1955, and I came across the border when I came down from Nebraska, and came across the border, and I turned on the car radio, and I heard the funniest music I think I ever heard, singing, and I heard "This is Indians by Indians" program, and I was in and out of Oklahoma for 1955, 6, and 1957 I met Alice, but I really didn't know any non-Indian people in Oklahoma. I knew Indians. I went from one side of the state to the other, to powwows and dancing and everything like that. And I would stay all around 2 months each summer. And I would go back and forth. I would stay in the field for a few weeks, and then I would go back to my friends in Nebraska, then come back down here again. In 1957 I met Alice, and she was working on the Osage claims case at the time. And in 1958, she came up to New York to visit me, and I came down here for that summer, and she suggested that I see the whole year through in Oklahoma, that I would have much better understanding. So I sublet my apartment, and I came down and stayed with her. And I've been here ever since. That's about the size of it. The Osage claim case refers to the land claim cases that the Indians, to reimburse the Indians for their land.
And you won it.
And I finally helped Alice on that at the end. And went with her to Washington when she testified before the committee.
You won the case.
Name the case. The Osage, no, name it.
No, you won it.
No.
You won the case.
Oh yes, we won. And it was one of the largest settlements at that time. It was something like $70 million they got. And that was the first winning case. And we worked on the second for a while, but then they went and got somebody else. So while I was in Oklahoma, I worked in Cushing, and with an old lady by the name of Mary Hill, who had married Dad, and she was the niece of the woman I had worked with in Iowa. And I just moved myself around the families. And so since we've been up on there, we had the Oklahoma Indian Council. And then we began writing books together. And so that's how we got to Oklahoma. We taught together at OU, where we were associate professor for 2 years, 2.5 years. And then we taught, we're up at Central State. This will be our 10th year. So the time is going quickly, we have been busy. Well, we usually have put it together. But Alice will do her rough draft, and then I will take it from there. What I don't like her, then we argue until we work out the problem. And then we type the manuscript, and it goes to New York, and when it comes back, then we both work on the edited manuscript to work out the problems that appear. And then it goes back to New York again. And by the time it makes a few more trips around with various page proof and all of that. I've done all the illustrating for our books together. And this present book that we're working on, the fur traders along Mississippi Valley, I'm doing the first draft, and then Alice will take it after that. Because it takes more reading and research than she's able to do with her eyes right now. The one people said I can see where Alice wrote and where I wrote, but when they point out what it was, it usually isn't the way they think. And I think that if you read Alice's books alone and you read the books we wrote together, you would see there's a difference in the styles. Getting pretty good at writing like Alice by all these years. I ought to be, but I don't know, I write the same way. The one we talked to her, I saw her speak to her. So it would be different.
That's natural.
Yes. But that's how we put them all together. And we combine our research and our experiences. Well, I know quite a lot of Indians.
I know.
And the first Indians I really knew were Pawnees. And that was with I met Blanche Matlock in Pawnee. And I was up there with a friend who had worked with the Pawnees 20 years before. I've gone back to visit. And going for the oral Pawnee. And I had attended Carlisle University, Carlisle School for Indians in Carlisle, Pennsylvania. And she was a very interesting woman. I also knew Dolly Moore, who was one of the keepers of the sacred bundles of the Pawnees. And I got to see quite a lot of those bundles. And she grew the sacred corn for the bundles. Those are fed each year. The woman I worked with in Iowa was named Mrs. Leaf. I presume she had a first name, but nobody called her anything but Mrs. Leaf. And she was a real Indian lady. She spoke no English. And really had to use an interpreter. Her son served as interpreter first visit. And then her daughter was my interpreter the second visit. And she was a very good craftswoman. And one day I said to her, she asked me if I knitted or crochet. And I said I knitted a little, but my grandmother crocheted and knitted. And she was very good at crocheting. My grandmother was in her 80s then. And I said to Mrs. Leaf, would you like to see some of my grandmother's work? She said, oh, yes. So my grandmother sent her a pot holder to crochet. And Mrs. Leaf sent my grandmother the most beautiful beaded flax fur moccasin. She had made 2 pair in the Chicago Natural History. Bought 1 pair and she made my grandmother a gift. So my grandmother couldn't be outdone. And Mrs. Leaf would dictate her letters to my grandmother and sacrifice to her granddaughter, who would translate them into English and then write the letters to my grandmother. When my grandmother wrote back, the girl would translate it back into sacrifice and read it to Mrs. Leaf. So neither of them would tell me what they wrote each other. They both kept the letters. And so my grandmother sent Mrs. Leaf a beautiful black lace shawl that they used to put on pianos. And when I was there, I had a big red bath towel on his bath sheets. And one night the little boy, her grandson, fell asleep, and I covered him up with this towel I carried in the back of the car. Well, the old lady thought this was beautiful. Could she have it? So I said yes, she could have it. Then the following year, she died, and she was buried with the red towel and the black shawl. And they gave me, she had been working on a applique aprons for my grandmother, and they gave them to me. One wasn't finished, and I was going to finish it, and I thought, no, I'm just going to give it to her the way the old lady left, and that's what I did. That was a very interesting and pleasant experience. My grandmother lived to be 100. And then the woman I worked with down here, Mary Neal, she was a very lovely woman, and so was her husband. And we made mats, and we went over and bought chives and got the wood so we could make a wikia and weave the mats in the real old style. And well, I met a lot of interesting Indians like Maria Nakata and our Indian friend. And I met a lot of Kiowa people like Martha Thomas, who used to be in Anadarko all the time walking the streets. And I don't know, the new old people are just different than those old.
Right. Carol is an authority on arts and crafts of the Indians. She has been with them so much that she herself has accomplished much with the arts and crafts of the Indians, making them as they do. Would you comment on that?
Well, I haven't done too much with overall arts and crafts, not like ours. One, they were collected. They're collecting. If you are in and out of museums all the time, you really don't want to be a collector, because if something's gone, you can be in a soup. And but I have acquired things mostly by gifts. And I understand pottery making and good pottery. and jewelry, making my own experience. It's been well with an applique work of the Woodland tribes and with the weaving.
Mm-hmm.
But most of the time now we have been either dealing with mythology or personal lives of the people and the ethnography as it fits into the tribes. I worked with second fox woman Stroud for 3 or 4 years, and I have her life in Ross Drive now, and we hope that if this book on Alice Marriott murder, thanks for on the song, it comes out, successfully, that we'll be able to do another woman's book, and that this will be under my second fox book. She was much gayer in a way than Alice was, and she had a man friend who shared the house with her, and his father, who was dying, she would wet his lips with water. He was so thirsty. Then after he died, the man friend kept hearing his father talk to him all the time. And it was on 4 nights, and she told him, the old man wants water. You put a glass of water out there, and here the spirit will go away. Well, he didn't. He was halfway, and he said, oh, nah, silly old-fashioned. And it wasn't a week later, and he hooked the wagon up to the horses to go out and get wood, and the horses reared up, and the wagon ran over him and broke his leg. And the spirit got even with my friend, with him putting up, getting a glass of water. She had told him, but they said something bad will happen if you don't do that.
And it did.
It always does, still does. Well, her son, after she died, said to her son, now George, you have to have an adoption piece. You adopt when an individual dies, they belong to their own family, not to a husband or a wife. They go in opposite ways. So you adopt a mother or father or brother or sister, and to take the place of the departed. So I said, George, you better hurry up and have the adoption. His aunt had died, and they hadn't had that adoption. And I said, you better do this, or something bad will happen. And he said, oh, he's waiting. There was another cousin was sick, and they thought they would just wait a little while. The other cousin would die, and they'd hit the 3 adoptions. I said, George, just bang. And so, sure enough, George drives the truck with he's a non-union driver. And it had a big pipe on it. And the crane was loading the pipe, and it slipped and whang, George broke his leg. The same thing that happened to the other man. And so he hurried up then, and he had that adoption because his mother was going mad at him, and she didn't know what a spirit might do next. We have, sure, I